What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Omnic Lab. This week we are back with episode 145 of the show, and this week we're talking all about the art of combos. My name's Rob. I'm coming in all the way from a late Monday night in Japan and an early morning for Monday morning for my good friend Andres Gomez. What's up, Andres?
What's up? What's up? Yeah, today it's a cool episode. We'll be talking all about chaining abilities together and not the usual suspects either. We're not talking about just the normal ultimate combos that we all know and we've been practicing since the beginning of time. We're talking about more nuanced combos, sometimes with just regular abilities or stuff that you might not be thinking about that some of the greatest players are using right now to their advantage. So I'm excited for today.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're going to be talking all about just the traditional combos and maybe some things that we've covered in the past with our hero guides, but not necessarily have really highlighted within a holistic approach of just hero abilities. So we thought it would be a good idea to kind of give you a show all about those combos that don't necessarily involve ultimates, but maybe pertain to some of them. So we're going to be kind of going through them categorically by what they do. But first, we have a few announcements. So the first announcement is game night is coming up again at the end of this month. This will be on the 26th. It's always the same. Last Friday, every month. This month is April, so we're going to do it on the 26th of April. And in addition, Andres, why don't you talk about what we've been doing new on our Patreon this last month that we started rolling out?
Yeah, if you guys been listening to the show, you know that we've started this new program or this new Patreon perk where if you're a $2.50 Patreon, you can sign up for live coaching with us. It doesn't have to be live, but we do prefer it to be live because I think you get more of the experience that way. We did have a couple people that submitted some VODs that just wanted kind of like a written response back. That is totally okay if you'd rather not have a whole meeting. But that being said, if you do want to take advantage of this perk, please do message us through Patreon or email us and let's set up an appointment and let's get to coaching. Rob and me both like teaching and we love kind of getting to know you guys a little bit more. If you are a patron and want to get to know us a little bit better and just spend an hour with us, it's a great way to do it. So yeah, take advantage of it. I know that we've had a few $2.50 patron sign up last month. So if you're waiting to set the VOD review, don't wait too long. Let's set up the appointment. Let's do it.
Yes, absolutely. And big shout out to Shazir, one of our guys in the chat today, giving us the 1,000 bits. We really, really appreciate that. I'm glad that we could earn some more bits. Bits are so cool.
Shaz,
I wish I could do that on my own personal stream. But yeah, cool stuff, Shaz. If you guys want to check out our stream, you can support us with bits as well as subscribe on Twitch Prime as well as regular Twitch streams because we're affiliates. So you can do that there at twitch.tv/Omnic Lab. In addition, you can find us on Spotify. So please check out our new Spotify feed that is brand new this year. We finally got our ducks in a row and moved things over there. And if you want to also see who sponsors the show, we have Top Score Solutions as well. The Omnic Lab is presented in a large part by them, an esports-oriented community for business education and analytics. If you want to develop businesses, services, orgs, or just create content about gaming and esports, they're here to help. They have a flagship podcast called the Esports Business Pod. And you can check them out in all of your podcasting apps of choice, as well as check out their website, topscoresolutions.com, to find out more details and check out their community links for Discord. Also, Omnic Meta is out with a force. You guys now have a beta client still in the works that he's using. Our good friend Switch Fox is doing stuff on Omnic Meta for Overwatch League, as well as your personal stats that you can go check and see some stats that will be at least pertinent and giving you some realm of analysis to go check and see how you're informing stats over the course of a lot of games. Andres and I have harped on this before. If you have any questions, you can also access him on his Twitter feed as well as our Discord.
Yeah, especially if you're into fantasy Overwatch and that stuff. The website is turning out really good for that because you can scout the players who are actually doing the hottest right now in Overwatch League. So keep that in mind and go to Omnic Meta if you're into fantasy Overwatch.
Absolutely. Andres, bring us around to our topic of the show and kind of how we're going to approach it.
Yeah. Let's talk about abilities, combos, chaining, and how you should be thinking about it. I think this is a pretty broad subject, so we're probably not going to touch on every combo or ability out there. If you guys do think of one that you think is really important and that you guys use every day, please message us, tweet at us, let us know. We would love to share with our community as well. But that being said, these are the ones that Rob and I have been using in our games, or that we've been watching Overwatch League players use in their games, and how they're chaining abilities together. Because sometimes there's a subset of abilities in this game that works really well when you use it in tandem with other people. There's abilities that just benefit you and, make you better at the battlefield, but there's some abilities that if you kind of keep your eyes open and you try to use them in conjunction with other heroes, you can get a lot of bang for your buck. And some of them are not super intuitive, or maybe you guys have been not using them in this particular way. So let's talk about him. You want to fire us off with the first section?
Yeah, so our first section we're going to talk about is one of the most prevalent things in Overwatch that you have access to on a lot of the heroes in the roster, and that is the boop, the art of the boop. Now, just keep in mind, this is going to be a little bit more of a discussion topic in general. We're going to kind of go by these categorically. Some of these are going to be intermediate. Some of this is going to be super basic. Some of this is going to be super advanced. So for what it's worth, the boops are the first category because it's the biggest one. And here's some things that you can be looking for with a boop. Is the basic thing that involves hero displacement. So the way for you to offensively move the directional control that another player has over their character, whether it be through a quick thing or through a kind of sustained thing. So things to be looking for would be Ash's Coach Gun, Doomfist Rocket Punch, Doomfist Uppercut, Diva Boosters, Hog's Whole Hog Ultimate, Brigitte's Whip Shot, Pharah Concussive Blast, Junkrat Concussive Mine, Wrecking Ball's Pile Driver, Soldier 76's Helix Rocket, and of course, Lucio's Shotgun Boop.
I'm glad that you brought up displacement, because in the podcast, even here, we talk about positioning all the time, how important it is in Overwatch. You gotta be in the right place at the right time to be able to, make things happen. And boops are kind of like that direct counter to that. It doesn't matter if your Reinhardt has amazing positioning if somebody's booping him all the time and making him lose that position. It doesn't matter if somebody has high ground advantage if you can get up there and boop him off so that they are no longer up there and probably falling into the lion's den, aka your team down below. So boops are super useful, and especially after this patch, and that's why I wanted to talk about them first. They're incredibly strong. They're actually meta-defining right now because of how strong they are. If you guys
just got buffed recently.
Yeah, if you guys have been watching Overwatch League, for example, we know that in Stage 1 it was dominated by GOATs. 3 healers and 3 tanks, with Reinhardt as kind of like the main guy leading the way. And this stage, things have changed a little bit. Reinhardt has lost a little bit of popularity. Winston has actually gained some popularity, and is in a big part because of the boop changes. There's other factors at large here, but boops have been a major factor why Reinhardt has become a liability. So do keep your eyes out for boops, because if you're playing a hero that has one, chances are you can do a lot with it, a lot more than you think. Let's talk about some of the boops.
Let's talk exactly about that. And I think we should start with probably the most obvious and easy to digest one, which is Lucio. And maybe we compare this with Pharah and Diva's boosters. I'd say those 3 abilities are kind of the easiest, most approachable techniques. And Lucio's blaster does damage and pushes people away. Diva's boosters is kind of a push aside and a little bit of a push back, as well as the hitboxes around where she is moving, and it gives you a little bit of speed. And then you have the Concussive Blast, which is a separate projectile that hits a surface and displaces things around the surface, but does not deal damage at all. So these are the 3 main core ones. And why are we pairing these together? Well, because these actually have some of the largest area of effects that you have access to in the game. To boop, and also they have some of the strongest ability to, I guess, move in a far distance in a short period of time. And Lucio is also super prevalent in the meta. And why is that? Well, it's because Lucio is the only one in the game that basically can give your team a benefit of speed. So what Lucios have been doing over and above is setting up a lot of ultimate combos by giving access to teams the ability to use one ultimate and then one basically hero ability instead of committing 2 ultimates to a fight. And this really showcases itself when you're playing online in a lobby without pro players, or you're playing in solo queue. You can use this Lucio ability to make your teammates look better in their ultimate uses. For example, let's say they grab Surge and hit maybe one target. Well, if Lucio is kind of getting geared up for this ability, you're kind of maintaining, observing the ultimate economy in the game. You can kind of circle this fight and wait for that graviton to go and then drop out of a building or the sky and boop the enemy team into it. Even if they miss, that displacement now puts them into a range where the graviton's going to be able to suck them in. And that's just simply comboing one ability.
Yeah. Watching out for your Sara Graviton and any stragglers that kind of like get out. You can like push them back into the. The boops are so good for setting up certain plays, and Lucio specifically is extremely good at it, mainly because of how mobile he is and the fact that he can do what you said. He can approach from the rafters, kind of like Spider-Man, and just kind of fall on them.
Right.
You don't have to be repositioned, kind of like Ash Coach Gun. You know, hers is a little bit more limited because you have to put yourself in a really tough spot and then use your boop, which, you know, makes you vulnerable. But Lucio is extremely good at this. You can set up shatters, for example. If you know your Reinhardt has shatter, you don't even have to break the shield. You just have to boop the other Reinhardt out of the way. You can boop it above so the Reinhardt can just shatter below him, or you can boop him even to the side if you don't want to get too fancy. As long as the people behind the Reinhardt are exposed, your Reinhardt has a chance to, you know, get his shatter in, guaranteeing it, right? You can also do it with Diva Bombs, for example. One of the best things to look out for with Lucio, for example, or Pharah, you can do it too, or anyone that has a boop that doesn't put him at a like extremely bad position. Diva Bomb goes off, and you know immediately the enemy team is going to be scattering around to try to find cover. And this is your cue right here, because they're probably not going to be trying to contest you at this point. You can speed boost. You can try to deny him from going around the corner. You can, a lot of the times people get this false sense of security when they're hiding behind a Reinhardt shield. But then again, you can just boop him out of the way. You can do this with Brigitte, for example. When the Reinhardt is trying to shield everyone, you can just rocket flail him out of the way, exposing maybe the Zenyatta or Diana right behind him. So you have to be very vigilant when you're using boops. Don't just boop for the fun of it, right? It's really fun to boop, and I've done it before too, where you just see the Reinhardt standing there and you just want to make his life a little bit miserable and maybe get him out of his groove and just keep booping him around, but not really for a specific reason. Instead, try to look around about what's happening in your surroundings and can you set up a boop. Sometimes it can be something as simple as your Genji or your Soldier 76 is trying to chase somebody down. And before they go around the corner, you can't deny him from going around the corner and basically set up that kill for your soldier who's about to lose line of sight of them, for example, and just be like, nah, you're staying right here and you're dying to my soldier, kind of thing.
Now, there's something that's really interesting about boops in general, not just for Lucio, but why Lucio is such a big target for discussion on this is because, like Andres said, you have some of the highest mobility in the game accessible to you and your team while you're playing this hero. So you have a high utility input. And Lucio also has a lot of damage he himself can bring to the table, not just with this, but he can lead into this with slow moving projectiles and 1 or 2 headshots in comparison to this. It provides any displacement, provides you the threat of if they walk near any form of environmental kill zone or basically getting knocked off of the map in some way, shape, or form, that gives you an extra threat of just being in existence. And then the big thing beyond all of that is that Lucio has a 4-second cooldown on an ability that no longer consumes his ammo anymore. So you have basically this ready available thing, and Diva also has access to a very ready and available thing. And you could even pair, honestly, you could pair Doomfist's punches to this because his cooldowns are super often as well. but they're a little bit more linear, whereas Lucio can hit an entire group of enemies if there's no barrier set present. And then the one thing I like using Lucio for is honestly just booping people into bad positionings can be a combo enough. So if you're running around and you're approaching the enemy team and you kind of are just like able to get a little bit of height and kind of hide from them as they're approaching, you can just boop somebody away from the team and they're out in the open. And immediately when you start doing things like this, the higher you're climbing and the more skilled your teammates can punish people, the more often this becomes a good technique for you. So your teammates are going to be like, oh, snap, the McCree just got booped behind the shield on the opposite direction. So then your Widowmaker just kills him. So these situations appear more and more the higher up you climb into Platinum and Diamond and Masters. These type of plays are just suicidal for enemy teams being outside of a barrier in the open. They're dead.
No, absolutely. Booping people into bad position can definitely be a combo in its own because, especially depending on where you're booping them, it can be extremely beneficial for your team. For example, if you're playing Winston against a Reinhardt, you can get pretty good at keeping your distance from the Reinhardt as Winston and basically just damage him with your electricity while he's just swinging at the air. And you can keep that gap. But guess what? If somebody comes around and boops him right into the Reinhardt range, then you can no longer do that. And a lot of heroes do that, right? Like Genji, for example, or Tracer. They'll keep a safe distance from certain heroes, like Brigitte, for example. And as Lucio or anyone that can boop, you can close that gap for them so that now they're in a terrible position. In Overwatch League, they do this all the time against Reinhardts or against Zaryas. Zaryas are usually trying to keep a safe distance behind the Reinhardt shield, try to provide pressure for him. Same as Reinhardt, they're usually trying to stay behind the corner until they can get their Lucio speed boost and they can, close the gap on you. But as Lucio, you can constantly get him out of position and put him in your Brigitte's range so they can get stunned and then all your team can collapse on them, right? One of the scariest things is to be in front of a Brigitte and a Reinhardt just swinging at you together because it's really hard to escape their grasp once you're right there. But the problem is closing that gap and getting in there, which boops can definitely do for you. So watch out for, heroes trying to maintain a certain distance from other heroes. Can you mess with that?
Yeah, and absolutely. When you're using any sort of boops, it's also important to understand what the functions of the boop can be. Can they be offensive? Can they be defensive? Can they be both in the same movement? Can you use them offensively solo in the 1v1? And can you use them for finishing? Can you use them for initiation? Those type of things. There's not really a good way to define kind of like offensive and defensive in Overwatch because the game ebbs and flows so much like ice hockey and soccer or football. Like the game just shifts constantly.
Yeah, one point you're in defense, at one point you're in the offense. You kind of have to
it flips on a dime. Exactly.
One thing that I do want to mention about boops before we move on is the anti-combo, I guess, or the combo denial kind of like thing. And when I'm talking about this, is not so much comboing abilities with your team, but waiting to see what abilities the enemy team is using and can you counter them, or I guess I should just say counter combo with your boop. And this can happen a lot, for example, against dive compositions. Boops are so amazing at countering dive because you can actually boop the dive out of the way so they can't actually get to you. And this is extremely good for compositions like bunker comp. If you're hiding behind an Orisa shield and you maybe have a bastion or some heavy damage behind the shield that you intended to keep there for as long as you can, one of the easiest ways to counter that is diving, right? You just go take the fight to them and either force them to get out of that space or you manage to get a kill, etc. But the boobs can be a huge deterrent to this. Specifically, Ashe Coach Gun, for example, is extremely good at doing this. Lucio Boop, of course, also. And any boop in general can get the job done. Orisa, her flail, her whip shot, can do it too. But when you see, for example, a Winston jumping, that's your cue. When you see a diva beelining to you with her rockets, that's your cue right there. That's when you want to save the boop to use it at. You would be surprised, for example, with Lucio, how far away you can actually boop the Winston out of position. As he's flying towards you, there's a pretty good distance you can use the boop where he's already getting affected by it. And you want to be careful about this, right? Because he can use his bubble or anything else, and you might not be able to boop him. So you have to kind of time it either before he uses the bubble or after he uses the bubble. But you can deny heroes like that from getting to your backline. So your Anna or your Zenyatta will really thank you for this. Any threat like this you can deny with the boops.
There's another thing that you're going to want to keep in mind with your abilities as well, is you can set up things that aren't necessarily ultimates. And we talked a little bit about this with damage. We talked a little bit about this with using the boops with ultimates. We also just talked about putting people in bad positions. But when you play things like Wrecking Ball, for example, using Pile Driver is just simply the ability to slow people down, to pop them up in a predictable path. But these type of things also give a large area a burst of damage, where if you're playing a Wrecking Ball and a Genji together, you can actually set it up so that Wrecking Ball knocks them up in the air, giving your Genji the free reign of reaction time to just dash through the air after this, and you get a chunk of damage into that set, as well as a lot of ultimate charge for both of these heroes. You have access to basically building Blade in an instant. If you're close within 20%, you can basically do Pile Driver into a dash and get your combo right then and there. And potentially you could even combo to kill a target. If somebody is taking a little bit of chip damage and you Pile Driver dash, they're dead. In addition, you can do this type of thing with pretty much anything. Like Winston can do this with his jump and his burst damage, with basically doing a jump Tesla as he's landing, then weaving in a melee. There's these type of things for the 1v1s can also benefit you. And then I wanted to kind of use this to transition into the subtleties of boops. And this is where we're going to bring up Soldier 76, as well as the Brigitte whip shot, or even just using the Lucio boop in the 1v1. These type of things are boops that you can utilize to quote-unquote combo, but combo with your own abilities that aren't your ultimates. A lot of what we talked about when we had Jake on the show eons ago talking about Soldier 76 was the ability to get to the point when you're playing the hero to shoot and discipline your shots to lead the projectile of the Helix rocket to hit a target's feet, to pop them up just for a few seconds and giving you that chance to confirm the target. Because if you're shooting somebody at the feet, you actually have a small displacement that you can do to give you access to headshots on Soldier 76. You can do the same thing with Zarya's. There's a very small displacement you get with a bomb, and explosions around Junkrat's shots, and the concussive explosions around normal rockets from Pharah. There's very, very subtle things that you can do to help your teammates out.
Absolutely. You can set up kills like that very easily. Ashe, for example, her coach gun is extremely good at doing that. You can just boop somebody up in the air and finish him off with a headshot, just because of the predictability of the pattern. People who've been playing this game for a long time can attest to this. You eventually get really used to how the heroes move, and you get really good at timing how long it's going to take them to go up and down, and your muscle memory gets like extremely good at predicting that stuff. When I'm warmed up, for example, with Ashe or McCree, sometimes I don't even think about it anymore. I see a hero flying in the air, and my focus turns towards them, because I know those are easy shots. They're not gonna be AD strafing up in the air. As long as I have good timing and I've been practicing and stuff, you can hit him very easily up in the air. So yeah, boops also incredibly good for setting up kills. Hammond's Pile Driver, same kind of thing. You boop him right in the air, and your Widowmaker is just sitting in the back, thanking you, like, oh, thank you so much. I get an easy headshot on these guys, or even a body shot might even do it at that point.
All right, Andres, let's wrap up boop combos with talking about chaining boops, because this is always fun. Some of the cool things that you can do in the game is getting people off of high ground and then chaining that with more boops. You can Diva, get behind them, boost them off of a high ground. Then you can follow that up with a Pharah concussive blast, and then you can have your Lucio hunt them down and boop them all the way off the map. So there's stuff that you can do like this.
It's rare, but it does happen.
Yeah, and that sounds a bit ridiculous if you're thinking of like the Dorado high ground. That's the most common use of getting people off of high ground very easily, because there's two different locations where you want to try to do that with your engagements or your disengagements, whatever. But if you're thinking of like Ilio's well, there's a lot of people that will call you a Reddit Lucio for just hunting for kills across the well all game long and not really contributing to your team, besides the speed and the healing. But what you can do is you can actually combo with Orissa's pull and boop them down further. You can actually give them a boop directional input on their character model that is south. And by south, I mean towards the core of the earth, not south as in the direction. You can push them down into the pit.
Lucio's like riding in the well, you can boop him down too.
I've seen all kinds of stuff. You can just yoink people from around a corner into a Lucio boop, or you can boop them into a pole. There's both of them. Most of the time, people like to boop them into the pole because the pole is much slower missile speed. You could do that. What was the other one that I've seen people do? Oh, I've seen people get booped into a tracer bomb. They drop the tracer pulse bomb on the ground, and the Lucio just spins around and boops them towards the bomb and blows them up. You can boot people into Torbjorn's like area denial if it's on the ground. There's all kinds of fun stuff that you can do.
I am glad you brought up the boop him off of high ground though, because sometimes that is the easiest way to deal with a team that is in the high ground. You might be thinking, oh, we gotta change our composition, we gotta go dive, we gotta go heroes that can actually go contest them up there. But honestly, if you have heroes that can boop, like a sneaky Lucio going around the back and just booping off the Soldier 76 or the Widow, or if they have a bunker, if you manage to like boop the Orisa out from there, for example, you've already done half of the fight with one boop.
Okay, let's talk about a really fun, nuanced combo, which is shield combos. Now, this one is kind of a little bit more nuanced than maybe people are thinking. But shield, we mean protection-oriented abilities in order to give you a combo of durability or give you access to baiting. Baiting is another way of saying comboing them. You can bait people into a bad position by just setting up a situation that looks beneficial to them and then taking it away with a bait and switch. You have also the other ability of setting up a certain position and waiting for the bait. So what are abilities that you can do stuff like this? Well, you have Zarya's Bubble. You have Diva's Matrix. You have Winston's Bubble. You have Baptiste's Immortality Field. Technically, Nano Boost, if you use it defensively, can be a pretty big debate combo.
Yeah, or even you can even include the Brigitte, her heal. I forget what's the armor pack or whatever it's called.
Armor pack, yep. You can even do some things where I've seen Reinhardt's do this. This is kind of a little bit way more advanced, which is when they have a cracked shield. A lot of the Reinhardts will just go swinging and not let the shield break, because I don't know if you guys know this, but if the shield breaks on Brigitte and Reinhardt, if it actually is shattered, the cooldown is a little bit longer before it starts charging as a whole.
Yeah, well, you have no shield in that meantime. With the other, at least you have a shield. Like if a Diva bomb comes in, you can pull it out for like
you have a
second.
little bit of a shield as well.
Yeah, and it will start charging a lot faster. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, let's talk about chaining shields, because this is definitely a little bit more nuanced. This is something that you start seeing a lot more of at the higher ranks. Even without too much communication, good players definitely take advantage of this because it can be extremely strong. If you look at Overwatch League and you watch these Winstons playing right now, the level of focus fire in the Overwatch League would kill Winston so fast. Anyone who's tried to like played Winston and dove into like the backline and died in like 3 seconds kind of test. Like Winston can be a little bit weak sometimes if you're not using his abilities right, and if you're not relying sometimes on your team to keep you alive as well. But is one of the heroes that can really benefit from chaining shields in this manner. If you look closely at some of the best teams right now, the way that they dive with Winston, for example, Winston dives in, and before he gets close to the enemy, he already has Zarya shield on him, which can do a couple of things. We talked about boops being one of the best ways to deny Winston, right? When he's diving into somebody, you just boop him away. Guess what? If he has a Zarya shield, you've probably eat at least one boop, or some sort of like movement denial ability to get the Winston out of position. So your Winston lands safely, then he probably eats a little bit of damage coming in from him. He might eat some of the hardest hitting abilities, for example, like a rocket or a helix boost from Soldier 76, or dash from Genji if somebody's bold enough to be playing him right now in this meta. But you get the idea. He can like eat up some hard hitting abilities right as he's landing. Then when he feels the Zarya shield's about to run out, or like a second after it runs out, you can use your bubble, denying you maybe that sleep there from the Ana, or like the nade that she's about to throw in at you. The Hanzo at this point has activated Storm Arrow and is just like nailing into you, but then you have your Winston bubble. Then when your Winston bubble's about to break, maybe your diva comes in as the savior and is just holding her matrix right behind you. At this point, you've eaten the bulk of the damage of the enemy team. They've probably used their cooldowns, right? Like their Ana has used her sleep there. The Hanzo used his Storm Arrow. Soldier 76 used his Helix boost. Some of them might be having to reload at this time, right? Like after those 3 shields, they are depleted at that point. And you've accomplished what you needed to accomplish. Winston has not been killed. He's denying that area. He's taking all of the attention and damage for your team just because he was able to stay there for so long. At this point, some of the other heroes might have to retreat, right? If you've been like on the Ana or on the Zenyatta kind of like pressuring them, they might be like, crap, we gotta like get out of here. At most, if they don't retreat, you've won a lot of time for your team where none of them are probably getting damage at that point. The payload is probably getting pushed. But you accomplish your role as a tank so much easier because you've spread those shields around. And you can do that with many other heroes. There's just one example of how you can chain shields together. And it's one of the strongest things you can do in Overwatch.
Yeah, I would say that the biggest highlight here is definitely Zarya in general, because Zarya's kit is built around protecting allies, enabling plays, as well as benefiting your hero with damage for good play. You're getting more hero damage. You're getting the that higher modifier number underneath your beam and your right clicks, and you're able to charge your ultimate faster by virtue of protecting your teammates when they're taking damage, not before and not after. But that is what you're going to be seeing when you want to climb really high with Zarya, is communicating with teammates, enabling dives, enabling engagements, and not being selfish with them to get that charge. Although that is a playstyle we talked about when we had Ken Asian on here talking about it. The coolest thing about these Zarya bubbles is that they can be offensive and defensive in the same play as well. By virtue of what Andres is using with the same illustration, if a Winston jumps in, traditionally you have a diva going with him. The combo is that they're diving together and they're both not taking damage because Winston sits in the front. Diva is behind Winston using his body to block damage and then putting the matrix in front of his body so that he doesn't take any damage as well. So by the time they both land, they're both dishing out damage. Winston's able to cleave a large area while Diva can focus fire one of those targets. And then by the time they both land, then you have the bubble that comes in and mitigates even more damage. And then when the bubble goes down, if you're also running 3 tanks, you have the Zarya bubbles to see which one of the targets is taking the most damage, bubbling them, letting them get their cooldowns back so that they can both jump out and fly back. So you basically have this whole engagement cycle that they can do with having this maximum mobility in tandem. And
right.
If you're running Hammond, then you have a personal barrier that you can do on top of that.
It buys you so much more time when you're thinking about shields in this way. And it's important to think about it in this way because you don't want to use him at the wrong time, right? If Winston uses his bubble and you throw your Zarya shield at him, you're kind of stacking them. And it's kind of like the same idea of you don't want to like Lucio, sound barrier, and transcendence at the same time, because most of the time is really overkill. There's a few situations where that might be okay, And same with the
Hmm.
Winston. There might be a few situations where like maybe he gets rushed inside of his bubble and you know that he's gonna die, so you shield him then. But for the most part, you want to be spreading your shields. And likewise with the Matrix, if you see that the your ally is not taking too much damage at the time, but you know that he's still in a position where he's probably going to take damage at one point, you want to save it until they do take that damage. With your Reinhardt, for example, one of the reasons why he works so well in goats is because you can speed boost him and he can shield himself as he's speed boosting you towards the front line. But as soon as he gets to the front line, you don't really want him to just keep holding his shield. So instead, you enable him by using your Matrix on him or your Zarya shield on him, which denies things like boops, Brigitte stuns, any damage coming towards him, and allows him to swing freely into the enemy team and then shield himself back up once your Zarya shield expires. But at that point, the damage is done, right? Like, your Reinhardt becomes so much stronger at that point and so much more of a threat that the enemy team might have to concede some of the ground, right? Like the enemy Reinhardt is not getting that support. He's not getting a Matrix behind him. He's not getting a shield behind him. His health is going to go much faster than your Rein's health. And you've already won the battle of attrition there, gaining the area for your team or allowing your team to move forward or even getting that kill, right?
Yeah, the biggest thing with shield comboing is making sure that you understand the basics of good tank play is contingent on tanks being able to mitigate damage on themselves without necessarily using their barriers all the time. You're basically saving your barrier, using them at the correct timing in situations, and maintaining chaining with your allies instead of just saying, I'm a tank, I can take damage, I have a lot of hit points. Or I'm going to hold my barrier until I can block all this damage. You don't have to do that. And if you're able to maintain your barrier for longer because it's taking less damage, you're hiding behind corners, you're setting up plays, you're actually able to do these sort of things. You're able to get your barrier back. When Reinhardt's get a Zarya bubble, don't hold your barrier anymore. You need to go in. That's your only chance where you can just swing for free. You can do your Winston tickle cannon for free, as we like to call it. You can do those sort of things. The other thing that happens in the shield combos that we have listed here is Baptiste's new Immortality Field. We haven't really talked about it that much because we don't have the hero has only been out for a week. And no, we don't have a going deep coming in anytime soon because we want the hero to get explored. We want to see if there's balance changes soon and all that jazz. And we also need to explore who is good at the hero yet. But basically, the Immortality Field has have a bunch of uses. You have the most obvious use is denying ultimates. Basically, an ultimate comes in, you drop it down. The other one is to use it to self-preservation. You just want to save yourself. There's also times when teams are trying to coordinate an EMP and you dodged it. You can drop that Immortality Field somewhere where the core of the EMP landed. If you're bunkering up, you can sit in one position with an Orisa or a Reinhardt and a Bastion, and they're setting up somewhere, and you could just put that Immortality Field around a corner when the shield goes down and buy your Orisa some cooldowns, buy your Reinhardt some cooldown, and basically get access to immortal field without having the team having access to being able to shoot it very easily. Some people will just simply drop it, and that's totally fine, but you just got to remember that this Immortality Field basically denies the enemy the ability of a one-shot potential until that thing goes down as well. That means Widowmakers and Hanzos can't do anything to you.
I wanted to put in Mortality Field with the rest of the chaining defensive abilities or shields because to me Mortality Field acts almost like a shield. It's kind of like a pseudo
Right.
Zarya shield in a sense because you put it down, it eats a ton of damage, but as long as you kill it, it's 200 HP, kind of like a Zarya shield. You can kill the actual Immortality Field and you'll be good. But it sort of acts in the same manner, right? Like if there's a Diva Bomb or a Junkrat Tire, it'll explode, but mostly just kill the Immortality Field and you'll be okay. So you can use this ability in the same manner that we've been talking about some of the other shields. You can combo it with other stuff to give your team even more opportunity. It's the reason why he fits so well into bunker comp, for example. You got your Orisa and her shield goes down for any reason, and boom, here's your backup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now your Bastion
It's a
can't
long
die.
cooldown, but it works.
Right, your Bastion can't die, your Orisa won't die, and you guys get to stay in that position and not give it up, getting you more and more sustain. Um, and you don't have to only combo these abilities with other shields or other tanks, right? This works with DPS too. For example, Reaper has Death Blossom, and he wants to get into the middle of the enemy team to do it. Or your
Give him a
Soldier
bubble.
76 is Nano Visoring, and he wants to get super aggressive, but there's still a chance he might die. Or maybe your Genji is blading and there's no nano, so he's a little bit vulnerable. And the amount of Genjis that die during their blade is pretty high because you have to get into the middle of the enemy team. And if they're good shots or if they have abilities that can kind of mess with you, chances are you will die even with the blade. So, help him out, throw him a bubble. When the bubble expires, cover him with your matrix or something. Throw in Mortality Field at him and let him finish him off that Ana.
Give him the frisbee.
Yeah, you can use it in so many places. It's just a matter of being aware of who needs it, where the focus damage is going to come, and can you chain some of these abilities together to buy your teammates time.
It's really interesting too because when we say bubble him, it doesn't necessarily even mean Zarya bubble, although that's definitely one of the best ones because it can cleanse
Right.
a debuff. But like if you have a Genji going in, you can jump with him on Winston and just drop a bubble on him. It mitigates a lot of damage that you wouldn't actually be able to, and otherwise, just because you were there. The other things that you have access to here is stun combos. So we're gonna go into stun combos next. So stun combos are the easiest ones and the most how would I say this? Most polarizing is probably the way to say this, because they feel like I can't do anything, and it's true. That's how it works. You have 3 heroes that have a stun in the game. As I'm looking at this roster, I'm just double checking. Yes, that looks to be correct. Technically 4 if you count Roadhog's hook between point A and point B. That's technically a stun or a restrain, as some games would put it. But that, and then Reinhardt's Earth Shatter is also one that I'd probably loop into that sometimes category. It's more of a knockdown, stun area of effect. But the other ones are McCree's Flashbang, May's Cryo Freeze. If you're frozen, if you freeze any target with your endothermic blaster, that is a stun. You are stunned, but it's a slow degrading move speed before you get there. And then the last one is Brigitte's stun, of course, the one that everyone hates. But these are the stuns in the game, and what can you combo with them? Most often, you can combo ultimates that have instantaneous damage. You can also use them to combo shutting down shield combos. You basically use it as a counter. And you can use all of these stun combos into headshots because the targets are not moving. So a lot of times this is what you're going to be seeing is you combo the thing into a headshot, you combo it on a tank so that you can do a grenade, or you can do this onto a tank so that you can fan the hammer, or you can drop a pulse bomb, or you can get a Widowmaker headshot from clear across the map. You shut down the shield on a really big target. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Stuns are super strong, and you can use them to set up a lot of things. Similar to boops, you can use it to disable shields momentarily, so whatever threat or damage you need to come through comes through. Diva bombs are a good example of this. Reinhardt's kind of getting a little bit too confident hiding behind the Diva bomb, and here comes your Brigitte, just goes through his shield and stuns him from behind right before the bomb explodes, and he explodes, and everyone behind him explodes as well. You can do it with McCree. I've done it before to set up shatters. It's a little bit trickier though. I think a lot of people think you flashbang and then you shatter, and it's not as easy as that. It's more like your Reinhardt does a blind shatter of faith, and as you're hearing your Reinhardt shatter, you try to stun.
You throw it.
Yeah, you try to stun the enemy Reinhardt, and the shatter lands. It's a little more complicated than just saying 1, 2, 3 Reinhardt go, or though that you can't do that sometimes. Just 1, 2, 3, you both kind of like do the ability at the same time and pray that it lands. But it's happened before.
Now, I will tell you that there is one more stun on this list that actually is a weird category because it's the only one in the game that does this. It's called an incapacitation. But if you can incapacitate something with a sleep dart, then you can do a lot of these same stuns. But
Yeah,
it's a
sleep
lot
dart kind of
longer.
counts like a stun because you're basically setting it up in a static place. You can set up headshots,
Right.
like you said. So sleep dart, I would say, counts as a weird stun.
Now, the best part and the worst part, depending on who you ask about the sleep dart, is that it is the longest stun that you have in the game. It is even longer than the slow mixed with the speed decrease and the stun duration of being frozen with May. It is still longer. And let me tell you something. If you ever get to the point where you're comboing, like let me just back up. I'll never forget the scrim that I had when I was playing for a team in Australia where we had a really good diva player and we're playing on Anubis and we're sitting on a point B defense and they chuck their diva bomb all the way across and all of them pile in behind their Reinhardt because they're in the middle of no man's land back there. They have no way of escape, no speed. The Reinhardt turns his shield, follows and tracks the diva bomb, and I wait for him to start tracking the diva bomb vertically, and I fire that dart clear across the map. He just went to sleep the second the diva bomb detonated, and he got a 6K
Oh
right there.
man, that has to be so satisfying.
It is the
Yes.
greatest thing, and you'll never see yourself on the kill feed for that, but that is the greatest assist that you can have, is basically killing the enemy team by having one stun.
And that is the type of thing you should be looking out when you are playing a hero that has access to the stuns. Brigitte is an excellent hero to set up this sort of thing because she naturally is already in the front line. So any big threat that comes into the front line, she can kind of make it into an even bigger threat. And tanks have to watch out for this constantly, right? Like shatters, diva bombs, gravitons too. You can't get
Yeah.
too confident because you can make the graviton go through the shield, or stun the diva, get the graviton in real quick, etc. As a Zarya, if you see your Brigitte just stunned the diva, that can be like your cue, right? Like boom, fire
Right.
your grab right there.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's definitely one of the things that you can do is you don't have to kill a target to enable the protection of them, right? Like if you're trying to, or not the protection of them, but if you're worried about diva eating something, which is one of the big things that people are looking for right now, is can the diva eat it in the fight? Can they track it? Can they wait for it? Can they hold their matrix for it? If you just remove the matrix by killing the diva mech, that's one option. The other option is you just incapacitate them with a sleep dart, or you stun them, or you remove them from the range of the fight with a boop. So you have access to all of these different things. And the furthermore is now you can start to see, you can start chaining the same category of abilities or different ones. You can chain denial of stuns by using the shield combos, or you can chain a stun with another stun. You can brig stun into flashbang stun into sleep dart. You can do the same thing with boop. You can basically walk around the Ilios tunnel, wait for your Brigitte to stun the Reinhardt, and stun them with the Shatter. Or that's what they did before they had to nerf Brigitte, because you could do it through barriers. Now you can just do it where you can boop the Reinhardt up and stun him as he's going down, and he has no directional input on his character.
And this
You can do
happens
stuff like this
all the time. Just ask
It does.
any Reinhardt player in Masters Above. They get to experience this on a daily basis.
Yeah, and the stuns are super powerful when you have heroes that have mobility, and they're definitely the most obvious. When you stun, incapacitate, or stop a Lucio's movement, when you can do the same thing with a Hammond or a Wrecking Ball,
Yes, I'm glad
those
you
guys are
brought.
toast.
I'm glad you brought that up because we got angry Valhand over here. It's saying that he has felt the pain of chaining stuns.
That's right.
As Hammond here in the chat. And yes, like you said with Lucio as well, these heroes that can sometimes get a little bit cocky, right? Or can sometimes feel a little bit invincible and can walk into the enemy team and get out unscathed. You can definitely counter this with your stuns. That Hammond comes in and he's about to pile drive. You stun him after he piles drives, and he's just basically sitting in front of your enemy team. And normally Hammonds, they walk out with like a sliver of health, right? Like they walk out with like their shield and maybe like a quarter health. So that stun can actually buy you enough time sometimes to just outright kill the Hammond or not let him escape. One of the best things you can do against a Hammond, for example, is if you see him trying to gain speed, like the second he puts his little grappling hook out, stun him right there. Don't wait till later. Like the second you see him pull his grappling hook to run away, stun him right there, and he's dead because he'll come out of the stun and he'll have no grappling hook anymore. You'll have used his cooldown, and it takes a second for him to gain the speed. So this is like your best chance of attacking.
I also want to bring in the X factor here before we move on, which is Sombra, because Sombra doesn't really fit into any category, but has kind of a half version of Boop and a half version of a stun and a half version of a shield in EMP and hack, because it's a very unique ability. It's basically straight up denying you the ability to do anything with your abilities because it just says you can't do those. Hack basically denies it's I would say if you want to define hack in any sense of these type of categories, you basically have to count it as almost a half stun. You're removing most of what they can do, but not everything. So I'd say half stun. You're removing the ability that Hammond can swing his wrecking ball, and he has to stay in the deployed form. You deny Bastion the ability to do all of his damage because he has to go back into recon. You can deny Doomfist his ability to do pretty much anything because his whole kit revolves around comboing his own abilities into the next one. You're also denying your Reinhardt the ability to do their shield combo. So when you're looking at why is Sombra such a good hero right now is because she has mobility and she has a half stun that she can combo with pretty much any other ability. And in addition to that, the EMP has the added benefit of tracking ultimates, making sure that you know if they have them. You can chain your EMP into another stun, into a hack to make sure that you never get the ability to do it into a fight. And furthermore, you can do a hack after any of the regular abilities that we've been talking about thus far.
Yeah, and I do want to say one thing about stuns. Timing is everything with these abilities. Like, you can get so much value out of a stun if you do it at the right time, but you can get so little of it if you do it at the wrong time. Just to give you like a quick example, let's say Winston jumps at you and you're playing McCree. A lot of people, or Brigitte even, a lot of people will stun him immediately, right? Like the second the Winston is on you, you're like, oh, you're in my range, stun. And most of the time, this does almost nothing unless there's somebody else there with you to kind of like follow up. Most of the time, Winston will, yeah, he'll be stunned for a second, he'll take some damage. After that, he'll bubble. And his cooldown won't come up in like 3 seconds after that, he'll jump away, right? But instead, what if you wait just a little bit? He jumps at you, and instead of panicking stun right away, you instead focusing on dealing damage to him and putting pressure. And then, because you've been playing Overwatch for a while and you've been listening to Omnic Lab, you're like, you know, Winston's bubble is about, or jump is about to come out in 4 seconds. And I can kind of feel that about 4 seconds have passed. Now I'm gonna stun. And a couple of things can happen, right? Like maybe the Winston hits the jump button right away into the flashbang. You deny him the jump right away. Or not only that, his health is getting low. He might be thinking like, okay, time to retreat. But then that's when the stun comes in. And then you can finish him off with your teammates because you bought yourself that little bit of extra time. And this applies to so many situations. You don't want to just stun for the sake of stunning. What are you stunning out of the way? Unless it's like a tracer that you know you can one shot like right after your stun, then yeah, feel free to stun her every time that you can. But try to think about what are the cooldowns that they need? What is the position that they need to do? For example, a Genji comes in and he has deflect, all this stuff. So you wait for all that to happen. And the second he's going to go around the corner, that's when you throw the stun, maybe at the door or something like that. And he doesn't get to go around the corner. So timing is everything with the stuns. Keep that super, super in mind and try to revolve around like what are the abilities that you want to deny from them with the stun.
And also, what are the abilities you want to put into the stun if you're going to go offensively? You can use it for both purposes. And I know that because I play a lot of Ana, I pretty much think in every stretch, if there's an ability that's going through, can I dart them? Can I do a bio grenade? So when you're playing Overwatch, don't even necessarily try to overwhelm yourself with a lot of what we're discussing today, but try to get into the mindset of the heroes that you play and then look at what heroes are on the roster that people are playing in your game and look to see what they're doing and then adjust. So if I'm playing with a Reinhardt, I'm playing with a Winston, or I'm playing with a Hammond, I react differently depending on which hero is in the fray at a given time. What am I trying to do with those heroes? And then controversially, if they're throwing different heroes at you, how do you want to interact with them? So you can remove all of this guesswork and all of this extra information by saying, okay, I don't have to worry about any of this other stuff right now because those heroes aren't in my 12 hero roster right now, or the other 11 that I have to play around, right? So you can kind of work that through. And a lot of times you have even less because some of your heroes and the enemy heroes are the same. Maybe both of you are playing Reinhardt. That's even one less that you have to worry about. So try to start breaking it down a little bit earlier before you start trying to take into context everything in the hero roster. Because even Andres making show notes with me in the pre-show for the last couple of days, we had to like open a wiki page to have all of the heroes open just so we could remember everything. And even now, we're skipping a lot of stuff about Doomfist and Orisa just because Andres and I don't play those heroes very often. But Orisa and Doomfist have the pull combo with Halt and the ability to deny a lot of stuns and charges and stuff with Orisa's golden armor ability. I can never remember that ability, but it's not Halt. I know Halt is the pull.
The Fortify.
Fortify, yeah. And then on top of that, you have Doomfist that can literally just combo off of anything. Like his own stuff and your stuff. He has everything in his kit as a combo.
Yeah, Doomfist is the combo man.
He's the combo king. But let's go into the kind of the weirdest combo thing that maybe a lot of people don't use at kind of the lower tiers of play, which is vision combos. And what do we mean by vision combos? Well, this is not like using Orisa to like pull people around a corner. It's like, oh, I gotcha. I found them. This is more of the sonic arrows from Hanzo. This is the infrasight from Widowmaker. These are the abilities that we're talking about here.
Yes, vision can sometimes be so important to set up plays. The fact that you can see the enemy team and they can't see you means that you have a huge advantage. Go look at, for example, the way Sinatra is playing Zarya. And you can do this in your ladder game, especially if you get vision from it, because he'll just wait around a corner with Graviton and his Zarya, and he'll wait for the enemy team to like come around the corner, and he won't even grab at the team. He'll grab the wall that they're coming through and just pushes them all to the wall, basically guaranteeing that Diva, for example, won't eat her Graviton because she can't even see
too close to the wall.
Yeah, and you can do these things in your ladder games, especially if you have vision. You can set up so many plays. Your Roadhog hook, for example, if they can see somebody just coming around the corner, they're usually coming in a very predictable pattern because nobody's AD strafing when they feel safe, right? They're just trying to get to the battlefield as soon as possible, so they're not even paying attention. And this definitely you can definitely take more advantage of this at the lower ranks. At the higher ranks, whenever they hear Widowmaker use her vision, for example, some players will not even choose to engage or make any big moves during those like 10 seconds because they know they're at a disadvantage, right? Every move that they try to make, it's probably being telegraphed to the enemy team. And more importantly than that, you don't know if it's going to pan out or not. You don't know if the Widowmaker is aiming at you. You just kind of have to hope for the best. You can do this with Hanzo Sonic Arrow as well. You can set up your own shots. You can set up shots for your team. You can set up your own ultimate. If you Sonic Arrow at the right time and you see them coming through a tunnel or a small corner, you know that they can't run away and that's their time to like ultimate right into them right there. So vision can set up so many plays in this game.
Now, I have a really good example of this that came up in a game I was playing with some friends in the Discord. We were playing in I guess you would say probably 3,200 average SR game where the Widowmaker was just farming some of my teammates. And I normally don't get a chance to play DPS, and this given setup, we had a bunch of tank mains and an extra support main that was in our lobby. So I got a chance to play other stuff. So What did I do instead of playing a flanker hero like Tracer or Sombra? Is I actually had to switch off of it because of how oppressive the enemy's Widowmaker was in against us. It was too strong. Or probably their best player was playing Widowmaker. So what I devised a plan with Yankee was I'm going to play Hanzo instead of Widowmaker to counter, or try to go toe to toe with having Yankee go toe to toe with him and Widow. Is basically just saying I'm going to have Sonic on cooldown. Every time my Sonic's going out, I'm basically setting it up to say, here's the Widowmaker, tanks go. And that's what we did, because we're just waiting for the Widowmaker to show. I'm going to put the Sonic arrow somewhere where we think that she's set up, and as soon as she moves into that, then we sick the tanks on them, and that's how we won the game. The only way you could win that game is the vision battle, because if you don't know where the Widowmaker is before she shoots you, you die, and then you fight the game 5v6. And it's really, really hard to play the game that way.
Yeah, some heroes are really
from behind.
Some heroes really bank on the fact that you don't know where they are. Let's think about Reaper, for example. Reaper loves just getting behind your team, and he can be sneaky with his teleport and stuff. So he's always trying to wait around a corner for your team to go past him, and then he comes out and kills your backline, right? Totally ruined by vision. If you have a Hanzo, for example, that's on it, and he's like, I know that this Reaper is trying to do all this shenanigans, you can be revealing him all the time. Basically, allowing your team to be like, there's the Reaper, focus him, rush him, or don't even go through there, right? Like circumvent the Reaper at all costs.
Exactly.
Widowmaker.
It could also shut down Sombras, because Sombra banks on the ability of being invisible.
Yeah, so Vision, keep that in mind, because I see a lot of Widowmakers just kind of using her ultimate on cooldown, or Hanzo's not even using their Sonic Arrow. You should be using these like as often as you can. You get Sonic Arrow available, fire it. Where if you don't know where the heroes are and you have like a feeling that they might be around an area, check it for yourself. You know what I mean?
The opposite is also true. I've seen people use them too much as well. I was coaching a 4K team where their Widowmaker literally just hits Infrasight on cooldown, like Andre said. Like the enemies just all got wiped out, and they're sitting in spawn, and he just uses Infrasight. I'm like, what? Do you need to know where they are? Like, is this necessary at this moment? No. The other side is also true. When you're playing Hanzo, and you're getting into a groove, and the enemy's basically sitting at choke, getting ready to engage, you don't need to Infrasight that. You don't need to Sonic Arrow them. You know where the enemy team is. You see them all right in front of you. Don't use your cooldown. If you're waiting on them to engage with a Sombra, save it. Wait for them to kind of do the dance, and then you're like, okay, the Sombra's going to try to engage. Where would I go?
Or maybe
Sonic
I'm
going to
Sonic the flank, or like the zone that you think they might be coming through. To
don't
reveal
Sonic
that
where everyone
flanker.
already is. That's not useful, and that's probably losing you games if you're doing these abilities in such a way. It's not going to be helping your team. It's not going to be helping you. It's just a waste. So don't do that. Don't do that.
This is a little bit more advanced, and it does require you to be a fairly decent shot with Hanzo. But if you have heroes that you want to track for a little bit, you can shoot the Sonic at them. So a Sombra, for example, if you're already going to shoot at the Sombra and you have your Sonic available, you could just try to fire her with a Sonic so that when she teleports out, you know exactly where she teleported to. You can do this with Hammond, for example. Put a tracking arrow on him, and you know where he kind of like goes hang around, so that your team can kind of be ready. Like, oh, he went through the back this way. We know where he is, etc.
Just keep in mind with Sombra's translocator, she drops everything that's on her if she translocates. So if you pulse bomber or you Sonic Arrow, all that stuff drops.
That makes sense. Yeah, I did know about the pulse bomb. I should have realized that the Sonic Arrow is the same.
It works the same way. Yep. But what you can do is you can Sonic around and find the translocator and sit on it and wait. And then she translocates out and you go, she did. So there's one more combo that we wanted to talk about, which is called area blocking, area denial, and also I'll throw in one more phrase, which is funneling. This is basically telling people this is where we're going to go, and also denying the enemy that space, or forcing enemies or forcing allies into a space, which can be beneficial or detrimental depending on how you look at it. What heroes can do this? First and foremost is the easiest one is Winston's. Basically, his entire ultimate is a big giant jumping boop. So all of his primal rage built up over time. You can do that. Wrecking Ball basically can knock people around into spaces. He can funnel them. You can funnel people into a space with using, or you can funnel your damage into a space and force the enemy to go around it. A la basically spam heroes like Pharah and Junkrat. Technically, even Hanzo can just fire in a space, suppressive fire. You also have Torbjorn can deny stuff with his turret. Symmetra can deny stuff with her sentries. The other big one is Maze Wall. Maze Wall is the ability to kind of give your team access to denying them space and also giving you time to move. That's a really, really big one. Andres, did you want to contribute anything else here for which things are at play?
Yeah. Area denial can be huge, like you said, and especially if you're using it in creative ways. May Wall, for example, can be one of those abilities that can really break battle or really mess with the enemy team. Especially with guys like Reinhardt, for example, that are not super mobile and they do require kind of to be with their team to be effective. You can use it as a pseudo barrier to separate them from the team to the other, basically denying them an area. Let's think about point 2 Anubis, point B. When you are on the attacker side, for example, when you come into point B, there's that bridge that goes right into the point, right? And below the bridge, there's like a big health pack, and you can kind of fall down there, etc. If the Reinhardt is slightly out of position and he is ahead of that bridge, you can Maywall right behind it. And what the reason I'm choosing this particular example is because one, the Reinhardt will be pinned between your wall and your team, and he has two options: either fights and hopes that he can survive the wall, or two, he drops below the point. So you're accomplishing a bunch of things. One, you put in the Reinhardt in a very, very precarious situation. And two, if he chooses the only out that he has, he's already giving up his space, his area. And now your team gets to walk in for free while he's like slowly going back up the stairs. And that is if he survived. You can do this too to prevent people from coming into an area. If there's only a door that leads to that area, you can block that with the wall, basically preventing them from coming in. You can set up kills with your team. Your Reinhardt, for example, it's a liability for him to shatter straight into the enemy team. But if you can do the same of separating the team with a wall, then your Reinhardt can charge your May wall, and suddenly he's not in the middle of the enemy team. Instead, he's at a more safe situation, a more safe position, and hopefully he's able to pin somebody that you kind of like segregate him from the rest of the team.
There's lots of really cool things you can do with this wall where you basically can use it to hide your team. Basically, you're splitting your team and the enemy team, but with a wall, and they're trying to reposition around it. And then you can just say to your Reinhardt, for example, I'm going to drop the wall in 2 seconds, is even though you just put it up. You just say, okay, I'm going to put the wall up, and as soon as I drop it, I want you to earth shatter. Because they have no clue what's going on behind that wall. They have none. They can't see you. So you can basically put the wall up. They try to reposition, so the Reinhardt's most likely dropping their shield, and then you drop the wall and shatter them, and you can get the whole team. You have stuff like that. You have stuff like you can put a Diva Bomb on the ground, and the enemy team is kind of hiding behind a payload, for example. I've seen Maze wait for the Diva Bomb to right before they detonate, and then you use the May wall to rise it up in the air and immediately break it. So the Diva Bomb is above where they are and can detonate and kill everyone. So you can do some crazy nutty things, and I highly recommend you go watch Jardio's stream. And even Fitzy plays a mean May, because that's what he played before he started playing Sombra. But there is an endless supply of things that you can do with this wall, and you just have to be creative enough to try it. You have the very obvious one that lots of people like to do is the divide and conquer strat, or the I'm going to combo my wall with our Lucio speed boost, and we're going to hide the team, and we're going to sprint somewhere, and hopefully they can't see us in time before we get there.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can even use it as a pseudo shield sometimes if your team doesn't have anywhere to hide.
Exactly.
You just put up the wall. It's like, well, now we have a shield or a wall to hide.
I've also seen people get out of gravs this way. They put the wall right underneath the graviton, and what it does is the wall goes up, raises up everyone. The graviton yoinks you back down, but on the opposite end of the wall, so you have this big shield in front of the graviton. So you have that. also in your
The
pool.
wall is pretty huge in the creating kind of like your own opportunities. It can backfire quite a bit though, so you gotta be careful where you place that wall because a badly placed wall can do exactly the
Makes people
opposite for your
angry.
team. Yeah, you can leave
Yep.
like you can leave a teammate outside of your area, right? Like you can put him in a very bad situation, like or you're Reinhardt, you can block him in with the enemy team, and you're like, oh no, I didn't mean to do that, kind of thing. So you gotta be really
hmm
careful when you do it. But yeah, Winston or Roadhog, for example, also have amazing area denial. Like you were saying, you can just boot people around, not allow them to go into the point, or put him back into the danger, right? Like if your Mei uses her ultimate with Winston, you can kind of like boop him back into the freezing field so they can't really escape. Or one of my favorite things to do in denial is, for example, in a payload map or a point capture map. When you win the battle, you know that they are gonna have to come usually through small choke points, right? You can block these choke points with any of these heroes. Maywall, you can block their entrance. Winston, you can just primal rage and literally stand at the door like a bouncer, just kicking everyone off. Like, no, you're not allowed into this club. This is a VIP, basically. And allow your team to keep pushing the payload or keep getting that percentage on. It's an amazing team or amazing heroes to buy you time, basically.
Yep, and don't forget about Ash's Bob ability as well as Torbjorn's turret. These abilities can combo with anything. Basically, just being in a position where you're getting extra damage and booping targets into it, stunning things around it, is giving that tool the capability of doing that. And then Symmetra's teleporter is a combo in and of itself. I've seen Reinhardt's charge somebody into the other side of a teleporter, and then that teleporter comes back to in the middle of the team. So you basically are pinning somebody into your team without even being in a position where you could do that in the first place, because you're just pinning them into a a teleporter. You have people using teleporter in a weird way where you can send the Diva Bomb straight up, but you're right next to the teleporter when it goes there, and it goes straight up on the other end of the teleporter. So there's just crazy stuff that you can be doing now. And also Doomfist can punch even further because you can just punch into the teleporter.
Now that you're talking about
yeah.
teleporters, and I know in the chat somebody was mentioning ML7. I watched him yesterday do a play that was so cool. Basically, they were in King's Row, and the Symmetra put a teleporter so that it was going from one side of the choke to the other side of the choke. It was kind of like horizontal to where like the team was coming in. And the enemy team couldn't really see the teleporter, but when they came around the corner, ML7 was just kind of like firing at them. He just takes the teleporter, which basically puts him directly behind them, throws an Ana grenade at them, then teleports back in. So the Ana nade comes in behind them, and then when they turn around to see where the Ana was, he's already back on the other side. And yeah, he just darts the Reinhardt, and I was like, oh my god, that's such a next level play right there. So yeah, he's a great guy to watch.
I've even seen Yankee being using the teleporter by setting it up and then putting the teleporter behind them, and you and your team basically, Yankee told us, don't touch the teleporter. He just sets it up behind them. The enemy turns around, earth shatter. They're all dead. They just turn around because the teleporter exists.
Right.
It's like you could just use it as a big combo for
big bait.
It's insane. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. And also, like, I don't know if a lot of players know this, but you can put the sentries like on the ground first, and then put the teleporter on top of the sentries, and then it will teleport them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do it where a teleporter goes first and then the sentries go. You can do it the other way around.
It's actually a good way to deny a certain area, because the teleporter comes in, and it comes in like hitting hard, because
Instantly.
you have 3 sentries kind of like firing at you right away. If you're a squishy and you're right next to it, it's a lot of damage. It's tough. You might die.
Oh. Yep.
Anyways,
and
I was gonna say
the other. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say there's so many combos in this game that we haven't touched. And these are some of the ones that we're kind of like we've been using, we've been seeing a lot of pros use. The ones that we've seen kind of like are highlighted in the meta right now, and you should definitely be keeping attention to. Hopefully, this episode gives you guys more of a background on it. But like we said at the beginning of the show, if you guys have your own combos that you've been working with and you like them, please let us know. Write us in Discord, or Twitter is a great way to actually share a lot of these things with the lab. But what were we going to say, Rob?
I was going to say we have another episode that we're trying to plan. It's kind of long term, but we would like to get a mailbag full episode and just do full Q&A for you guys. So please submit questions in the Discord, in our Twitter. You can also submit them via email. Omnic Lab, I think it's just omniclabpodcast@gmail.com. I don't think it's Omnic Lab, so you have to be careful on that. You can go to our podcast questions section of our Discord and Omnic Lab's Discord. You can go to twitter.com and tweet at us. You can do all these things, but we really should wrap up the show. It's getting quite late, and I've got the first day of school for a lot of my kids tomorrow that I have to go do some teaching for. And yeah, but if you guys want to support the show, please consider supporting us. It helps us a lot. We actually just paid a ton of our website costs this month, and I forgot how expensive it was to maintain a good website and stuff, but we got some great people supporting us, especially over at patreon.com/OmnicLab. We have our diamond sponsors: Shazir, Top Score Solutions, Cloudy, Crimson Fail, Benny and the Jets, Brendan D, Refire, Roger B, Christoplaya, and Tragic Zach. And his new patron off the block this week, we have Ross H and Camille D. Thank you guys so much for your support. And remember that we still do that sweet VOD coaching, as well as VOD's live coaching if we can schedule it. And if you want to support the show further, you can go hit us up on iTunes. And Andres, I think you have that set up in the show notes right now if you want to read our one iTunes review from March 30th.
Yeah, this one comes from Miles OW. Time to get learned, he says. If you're looking to brush up on your Overwatch skills and learn new things about the game of Overwatch, Omnic Lab is a podcast for you. Found Omnic Lab about a year ago, and after listening to my first episode, I was hooked. I finished all episodes in 1 week while at work. Since playing from the beta, I didn't think I had much to learn. Boy, was I wrong. Every podcast, I learned something new. Also, the hero deep dives are very, very educational, as they will get you top 500 top 500 OWL players to break down the detail of said hero and how well to perform with a hero at the pro level. 5 stars, keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Miles. I'm glad that you're enjoying the show. Like you said, we keep learning stuff every day. Even though we've been playing the game for like 3 years, there's still new stuff that impresses me, new things that I've never seen, like that ML7 nade teleporter thing. That I was blown away with that. I was like, I need to do that once in my life at least. So this game is super awesome. The depth of it never ceases to amaze me, and there's so much to learn. So hopefully we can do it together.
And if you're playing on ladder, maybe this episode convinces you to get at least a duo queue partner. Go run amok, have a buddy and combo with them. Doing combos with somebody that you're actually willing to coordinate with, if they're not a rando, then and they don't want to coordinate with you, then having that one extra bit can be all the difference. Let me tell you. So let's wrap up the show by saying you guys can support us on Twitch. At the Twitch Prime subs, because we are affiliates, twitch.tv/Omnic Lab. You can check us out on Twitter. You can join our community on Discord and hang out there. We are always active and lots of people there. We're going to be doing some cool stuff with notifications soon, as well as I am working with our admin and mods to see if I can set up an LFG hybrid channel for recruiting teammates and setting up where people can recruit their Discords, because we've had people just doing that arbitrarily, and instead of policing it, we might find a good way to do it where it's in the rules. So we're working on that. But again, soon TM. We will see you guys next week, and don't forget that to oh, you know what? I forgot to give Andres a plug for his Twitter. So Andres, do that real quick.
Oh yeah, if you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. And my kid is already here like, bro, it's time to feed me.
You can find me on Twitter with the same tag, not Rob, as well as I've been streaming a ton of Breath of the Wild. I'm actually almost done with full completion guide on some DLC and Twitch, Shrine stuff, but we'll be working on that. Been doing it with my wife. Crazy time zone, I know, but you can maybe catch the VOD. That's at twitch.tv/notrobmay. You can set your notifications on there. Really appreciate you guys listening to this episode. It's kind of a really cool idea that Andres came up with kind of on the fly. So we're hoping this has got some good feedback from you guys. Let us know how you think. And don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. Be good to each other. And we'll see you next week. Take it easy.
Thanks to everyone in the chat. You guys were super awesome. We love the interaction. Even though we don't address it too much, we do read all of it.
I have nothing more to teach you. The rest you must learn for yourself. Walk in harmony, my student.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.